I spoke exclusively to the Democratic leaders of 3 congressional caucuses about the state of our economy and how Democrats see the path forward. Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus Chair Grace Meng, Congressional Hispanic Caucus Chair Adriano Espaillat, and Congressional Black Caucus Chair Yvette Clarke. It's their first interview together since they were elected caucus chairs. It was a privilege for me to have them on the show. Here's part of our conversation. The cost of living is still extremely high for so many people. Consumer confidence is at the lowest point in 4 years. What do you tell your constituents about the state of the economy? And looking forward, what can they expect?
A lot of voters voted in November because they were worried about their pocketbooks. They were worried and wanted to lower the cost of living for themselves, their families, and Americans all across the country. But here we are 3 months into this new administration. There has not been any legislation or any real policy proposed by this new administration that lowers the cost of living for everyday Americans. And so if you take a look at the cost of eggs, they are still high. And people are still complaining. And we are even seeing a little bit of buyer's remorse from our communities where they said, we thought we were voting to lower costs, but that's not happening.
And Congressman Espaillat, what do you make of the fact that, and the Congressman was talking about the Trump economic policy, it is for many people still unclear what that economic policy is, but one of the main pillars of that economic policy seems to be tariffs, right? Tariffs on, Mexico and Canada and China and automobiles made in Europe or parts that are made in Europe or elsewhere. What do you make of the policy that the president has been very forceful on of simply tariffs?
Tariffs are reckless. In reality, they're very reckless. First, as you said, some products are made half in one part of the world and then the other half here in the United States. And so there's going to be a reaction from those countries that are being targeted for tariffs, and they're going to apply tariffs on us. And at the end of the day, it is the consumer that will pay for it. So this is further contributing to inflation. It's tanking the markets. And that's why there's so much uncertainty in the economy.
Congresswoman Clarke, more than 72 million people in the U.S. are on Medicaid. Some 42 million people receive SNAP benefits each month. There are concerns. There could be cuts to these programs in the budget resolution discussions. What's your position on that? And are those cuts that should be carried out?
Absolutely not, Jose. This is the social safety net, or I call it the social compact, that Americans have had with their communities for decades now. And what we decided as a nation is that we don't want to see the poor out in the street ailing, that we want to make sure that children are nourished so that they can grow to be healthy adults and that they can utilize their brains effectively in school. And that's why we provide these programs to our communities. And for many in our communities, these are the lifelines that keep them afloat. They're working folk who don't receive health insurance. They're families that are just trying to make ends meet. And so many of these folks come from communities of color. I think about the fact that, one third of the folks who are on Medicaid are Black elders. These are folks who've worked all their lives, are probably living off of their Social Security and cannot afford or don't have access to health insurance. What are we saying to those who helped to build our communities and sacrificed everything so that we can live in a civil society that has been modernized by their work ethic?
One of the things that President Trump, promised during the campaign was to restructure the federal government, and on entitlements is an issue that we've heard Elon Musk talk about it. We've heard Doge talking about what they find in different programs in our country. I'm just wondering, where do you draw the line in efficiency, in if there is exaggerated costs or abuse of some things? Where do you draw the line on finding that abuse, finding inefficiencies, and yet not affecting the people that so desperately count on that help?
Well, I would say that it's important that we go in with a scalpel and not a chainsaw. Right. I would say that you don't fire the workforce if you're trying to find efficiencies. These are the folks who know where the efficiencies can be made. At the end of the day, we have an obligation as Americans to take care of one another. And that means that what some people call entitlements, others refer to, and I believe, are earned benefits. You know, you earn in your employment Social Security benefits. You earn in your employment health care and Medicare. So for these individuals to target these earned benefits is a huge departure from the compact that we've had with Americans for generations now.
A recent NBC News poll shows the Democratic Party is an all-time low in popularity, 27%. Saying they have positive views of the party. Take a listen to how some people say they feel about the Democratic Party.
None of this feels like you're fighting for us, for Colorado, for our kids.
Where is the coordinated effort?
How do you explain what is happening and why is this happening?
I will say that history shows when a party like the Democratic Party's numbers and approval ratings are that low, within the next major elections or two, Democrats come back roaring and strong and win majorities. So we're looking forward to recreating that history in 2026. Look, people are understandably hurt right now. They are frustrated. They are angry. It is important that
At the party?
At the Trump administration.
True, but 27% is the lowest on record for the Democrats.
It's difficult. They are very scared at seeing what is happening to our neighbors and to our family members. It's really important now that we are grieving with people, that we are showing them that we are empathetic and doing everything we can to make sure that we hear their voices and turning that anger into electoral results.
When we've seen, for example, what Senator Bernie Sanders and Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez have been doing when they've been going across the country, many places that aren't even Democratic strongholds, and they're getting 10, 20, 30,000 people to come out and to listen to them and to support them. There seems to be a disconnect in that kind of enthusiasm for Bernie Sanders and Alejandra Ocasio-Cortez's comments and position, Alexandria, and the 27% that polls show most voters think about the Democratic Party. Where is that disconnect? And what is it that you all could or should be doing to tap into that part?
We are a Big Tent party. We have many opinions and many voices. And certainly Alexandria and Bernie Sanders are two important, extremely important voices within our party. And I think that they show to have enthusiasm among their base. But I tell you something, Jose, I'm getting stopped every day in my district by people that voted for Trump. And they're not happy. You know, I'm getting calls from business people, restaurant owners that say, look, it's 1 p.m. This place used to be packed before. Nobody's coming in because they're afraid they're going to be swept up and deported. I'm getting calls from parents. I'm getting calls from hospital workers as to what's going to happen about their future. I believe we're going to win the midterm election.
We just won 2 seats, two heavy Trump seats.
Now, I'm optimistic about that. And I think that, you know, we have 3 silos that we're working on. One is the legal side. And there's a reason why Donald Trump is intimidating a lot of the law firms in New York City and across the country, because he's seeing the results of their litigation. So that's one aspect. You know, when everything else fails, you go to the courts and they give you relief. The second aspect, of course, is legislative and budgetary. And we'll have other opportunities as we move forward in the debt ceiling debate, in the reconciliation debate, to exert our power. And finally, and I think the most important one, is in the streets of New York City and the country. Eventually, it won't be in the marble floors of Congress or the mahogany walls of a boardroom where this will be resolved. It will be resolved by people that will mobilize and change the course of our nation.
Is the Democratic Party leadership in tune with the rank and file Democrats?
Absolutely.
And that's why you're seeing the energy at these town halls. Senator Murphy, Maxwell Frost, they're doing more too. Those poll numbers will be turned into electoral results.